Hey, good morning, good morning, good morning, everybody. Terry Hansen here, back with you on Traveling with Terry. And I'm excited to spend a few minutes with you on my way from my home to the office this morning, talking about two different kinds of people that you will be selling to during the course of your career. Now, if you are an entrepreneur of a smaller business and you have that kind of a position in the company where you're still hustling and grinding and you're responsible for finding new customers for your business and you're out selling and that sort of thing, or if you're a dedicated salesperson or an account manager who has just the primary responsibility of going out and finding new clients for your business, then let me share with you a couple of things that I have learned about these two mysterious buyers that we run into. First, I'll tell you a quick story. Years and years ago, when I was working for a digital printing company in Denver, Colorado, our offices were in downtown Denver, and we sold large format graphics, like the kind that companies use for trade shows or signage and that sort of thing, indoor and outdoor signage. Sold those kinds of large format printing services to companies. Anyway, I remember, going into one of the buildings and cold calling, going into one of the offices, introducing myself. And I sat down with a particular manager of a company, and I had my large portfolio of prints and things that I was going to show as demos and samples of the kinds of work that we do. And as I sat down with him, and he asked some questions about what we do, and I pulled out my portfolio and I started showing him all the really spectacular, wonderful samples of the kinds of printed work that the company did. And he expressed some interest. He got really excited, and he's like, "Oh, we could use this here or use that there." And wow, you guys do this? And I said, "Yes, we do." And well, how much is that? And I would share the price and that sort of thing. And I don't know, after about 20, 30, 40 minutes or something like that, he's like, "Well, this is really good. I'd like one of these, two of these, three of these, or can you get me a quote on this, that, and the other?" And as a salesperson, I was really excited, thinking, "Man, this is great. Got a live one on the hook here." And so really excited about that. And so I said, "Yes, I'll work up a proposal. I'll send an email to you with the specs and the breakdown of everything. And then, as soon as you're ready, we can go ahead and get started with all this." And he said, "Gosh, that really sounds good." So anyway, left the office really feeling like I was on cloud 9, and get back to the office, tell my sales manager, "Hey, had a great conversation. He's interested in ABC, and going to get a proposal over to him, and looks really good." So I send the proposal over, and I don't hear back from him. So a couple of days later, I follow up, and don't hear back from him. I finally was in the area, and I stopped by his office and happened to catch him, and he's like, "Oh yeah, so yeah, appreciate that, and kind of changed our mind. It's not in the budget. This quarter, we'll have to look at that next quarter. The timing isn't right. We don't have any trade shows or things coming up just right in the future, and some of the money that we wanted to use for this is being allocated towards other things. So we're gonna have to put the whole thing on hold." And I said, "No problem. Well, we'll just stay in touch," and that sort of thing. And anyway, the conversation ended, and I walked out of the office feeling a little deflated, a little frustrated, thinking, why was in meeting number one, why was he so electric and so jazzed and so hyped up and so excited, ready to move forward, etc. But then in the second meeting, he was all kind of poo-poo and like disinterested and that sort of thing. Has that ever happened to you guys? You who are in sales, you entrepreneurs who are hustling and grinding and selling, ever happened to you? Meeting number one is like super energetic, super motivated, super exciting, buying desire is really high, but then meeting number two is just cold fish. It's just dead and no interest and that sort of thing. It's almost like there's you're talking to two separate buyers, two separate people. One is really hot and emotional, and the second is really kind of cold and logical. Ever happened to you? Well, interestingly enough, we humans have two halves of our brain, a right hemisphere and a left hemisphere. The right-hand side of our brain is the creative, emotional side. The left-hand side is the logical, rational side. And both parts of our brains play an important role in the buying process. And unfortunately, sometimes us as sales professionals, we do a really good job at selling to one half of the brain and getting one half of the brain really excited, but we neglect to get the other half of the brain on board. Literally, the people that we are sitting in front of or talking to over the phone, trying to sell them our products and services, we're not selling to one buyer. We're not selling to one buyer. We're selling to two buyers. We're selling to the creative, emotional buyer, and then we're also selling to the rational, logical, analytic buyer. There's two parts of the brain, hence two buyers. And if we're going to close a sale, we've got to do a good job at selling to both of those parts of the brain so that it can be a full brain sale, as they say, right? So let me share with you a 5-step framework that I've used for years to do a good job at selling to both of these types of buyers. Otherwise, if we do a really good job at selling to the emotional buyer, then, and even if they do make the sale, then guess what happens? A day later, 2 weeks later, sometime later, the rational, logical buyer pops up and says, we really couldn't afford this. You didn't really investigate all the different alternatives out there. I'm not sure this was a wise choice. They get that buyer's remorse thing. Ever had buyer's remorse? You buy something, you get home and you look in the mirror and you're like, this makes me look fat. I'm taking it back, right? That's because the emotional buyer gets really excited, buys it, but then after you get home, the logical buyer in the brain says, that was a terrible idea. What were you thinking? Or your wife's going to kill you. This isn't in the budget. You need to take this back. So that happens all the time. So in order to avoid that kind of buyer's remorse type syndrome, let me give you this 5-step framework. It has a simple acronym. The acronym is PIMAT, P-I-M-A-T, PIMAT. And the first 2 letters in that framework represent topics that you're going to focus on with the emotional buyer. The last 3 letters in that acronym, M-A-T, represent 3 topics that you're going to focus on with the rational buyer. Okay, so PIMAT stands for, first off, you're going to discuss their priorities and their problems. Priorities and problems. You ask questions about what their goals, dreams, and aspirations are, but then you ask about what problems, issues, and challenges they've been running into that are keeping them from reaching those goals. Now, that's a very emotional type topic. And if you want to get somebody really excited, ask them about their goals. If you want to get somebody very, very frustrated, ask them about the problems and challenges that they're running into. And that's what we do to get the emotional buyer really amped up and eager to make a change or buy or do something, right? The I in PIMAT stands for impact, or in essence, the negative repercussions or the consequences of those problems. So we spend some time talking about asking questions about how those problems are negatively impacting them. So once we've talked about those 2 topics, the priorities and problems and the negative impacts, then we switch over to the logical buyer. The logical buyer, the 3 topics are M-A-T in PIMAT. You're going to talk about money, you're going to talk about authority, and you're going to talk about tailoring the solution or tailoring the product or service to their need. So you spend some time asking them about their budget. How much have they allocated financially to purchase a solution and to fix the problems they've talked about? The 4th topic there, authority, has to do with who the decision makers are, what kind of process they go through when they're making buying decisions, and what kind of criteria they use, and maybe even when they're planning on moving forward. The T in PIMAT stands for tailoring the product or service. So if you sell a car, for example, then the kind of conversation is what kind of car? Do you want the 2-wheel drive, the 4-wheel drive? Do you want the regular seats or the heated seats? You're talking about tailoring and customizing the make, the model, the size, the quantity, the color, the shape of whatever you sell so that it'll be a good fit. But those 3 topics, money, authority, and technical or tailoring, do a good job at appealing to the logical, rational side of our brains. Talking about the priorities, the problems, and the impact does a great job at selling to or catering to the emotional side of our brains. After we've had a good conversation that lasts, 20, 30, 40 minutes or so, talking about those 5 topics in PIMAT and appealing to both sides of the brain, Then we can put together our sales proposal, our bid, our quote, our estimate, send it over to them with our recommendations. And typically at that point, it's a pretty slam dunk to close the sale. So the problem comes when we only sell the features and benefits, only sell to the emotional side, or we only sell the logical, rational side. Problems always come. So if you're in sales and if you are struggling, or if you're looking for ways to increase your closing ratio, then do me a favor. Recognize that you're selling not just to one person, you're selling to two people, an emotional buyer and a rational, logical buyer. Do a good job selling to both, and your days of struggling to get sales closed are over, my friend. So anyway, happy Friday to each and every single one of you. Hope you have a great day. Work hard, crush it, finish on a strong note today. Hope you get all your honeydews done for tomorrow, Saturday, and stay warm. I know our country's under a big blanket of snow and everybody's freezing cold and slipping off the roads. So stay safe out there. Have a great weekend, and we'll be back in touch with you this next week. Take care. Hey, thanks for watching. Did you know every company out there has what we call digital marketing blind spots? These are simple, hidden opportunities for growing and improving your marketing that most of the time people miss. Go to www.arcanemarketing.com and take advantage of our Rise and Ignite digital marketing analysis. It's 100% free to get fresh new insights and ideas to make what you're already doing that much better in 2021.